Hi guys, it's Linora, and thank you so much for clicking that play button. This is my very first fitness podcast. I've yet to come up with a name for it, but for the moment, let's call it Linora's Fitspur podcast. So this is going to be done on a weekly basis where I'll have discussions on how to get and keep that healthy lifestyle going. There'll be training methods, nutrition advice, and motivation where possible. Today, with me, I'm so happy to have Ben, the founder of Australian Strength Performnace in Melbourne. Hi, Ben.
Hi, how you doing?
Doing very well. Ben is a master strength coach to a number of athletes, fitness models. He's also currently training Kimberly Leggett, our very own Miss Universe Malaysia. In fact, Ben and his trainers from ASP were recently down in Malaysia to conduct a workshop on hypertrophy. Now he's taught me a very different method of training, and I'm proud to say he's also my master strength coach. Introductions out of the way, Ben is going to help me debunk 5 nutrition myths. And the first one, egg yolks. I've been told to remove them because they're high in cholesterol. So are egg yolks bad for you? True or false?
Yeah, well, I think what we need to understand firstly is that when you go to a doctor and the doctor tests and says that you're high in cholesterol, that statement's quite general, because when we look at an individual, they are, when we look at cholesterol, there's HDLs and there's LDLs. So high density lipoprotein, low density lipoprotein, there are different types of cholesterols. And traditionally, they will say that, high density lipoprotein is good, LDLs is bad. But what you want to be able to do is, right now science has identified that there are good strands of it and the bad strands of it, of both. And so when someone is high in cholesterol, firstly, that may not necessarily mean the end of the world. Okay. It may not also mean that that leads to heart disease like most people think. So that's the first thing people need to understand. Now, when it comes to eggs, for example, yes, the yolk is extremely rich in cholesterol and high in cholesterol. However, it is important that you choose the source of where the egg comes from. So if you're taking an egg from an organic source, that means the chickens are allowed to roam freely. They're allowed to eat their natural foods, for example. There are a lot less stress. Then the quality of the egg is a lot higher. You will find that the yolk, for example, tends to be a lot more orange. And that means that it is higher in omega-3s. So omega-3s essentially is an anti-inflammatory, is what actually suppresses inflammation within your body, and that's good for you. All right, so yeah. So if you actually take in yolks, for example, that are orange, and you take in more organic or free-range eggs, then the quality of that cholesterol is going to be good for your body. Because guess what? All your cells are made of cholesterol. Your brain cells are made of cholesterol. So your body needs cholesterol to function.
But good cholesterol, of course.
Of course.
That's interesting. I never knew that if the more orangey the yolks are, that means it's high in
omega-3s.
Omega-3 oils. Okay.
Yep.
Now, the next myth that we want to debunk. Tuna, some people feel, is a great source of protein and it's great for diets and it should be eaten frequently. True or false?
False. Tuna is a great source of protein, no doubt about that, but tuna is also very high in mercury. So if you look at the species of fish, for example, tuna is a very large fish. It feeds on sludge, it feeds on a lot of the smaller fishes, and it's in the top of the food chain. And so what happens is it accumulates a lot of mercury. Mercury, again, is a heavy metal that is very toxic to the nervous system. It is also toxic to your health and your thyroid, so your metabolic rate. And we find that with a lot of people that do consume tuna, and a lot of it over a period of time, a lot of them tend to be, fitness people and bodybuilders, for example. They tend to accumulate a lot of mercury within the system. To give you an idea, 2 small cans of tuna, 2 standard cans of tuna, exceeds the ideal mercury consumption amount of a 200-pound man. So if you're taking more than 2 cans a week, that's obviously not advised because you are already exceeding that mercury level.
So it means, like, for me, say I'm like 100 over pounds. So that means I shouldn't even be taking 2 cans of tuna in a week.
No, you shouldn't even be taking 1 can of tuna in a week.
Wow. So tuna, great, but not to be eaten so frequently, all right?
Not to be eaten frequently, but also with the cans, just as a note as well, if you actually read the fine print at the base of the cans, you will find that it says that tuna is not recommended for pregnant women. Why do you think that's the case?
It will affect the babies?
Correct. Well, because of the mercury content in there, and it actually causes deformities in babies. And so they have to put it back in the can. It's just the fact that it's in so fine print. Not many people actually read it.
Ladies, take note. Do not take tuna when you're pregnant.
Not the safest source.
Third myth that we want to take a look at. Margarine. Some people may believe that it's better than butter, which is saturated fat, and they use that. So is that a better option or is that false?
It's actually false. It's false because if you look at the origins of butter and margarine, butter is from milk. Essentially, if I whip full cream milk up, I can actually make butter just by simply whipping it up. Whereas if I look at margarine, margarine is a vegetable oil. It's what we call a hydrogenated vegetable oil. That means they pump in hydrogen gas into the vegetable oil and they put it under certain conditions with certain metal catalyst. And margarine comes up to become a gray goop. It looks like a gray kind of a solid under the microscope that resembles plastic.
Ew.
All right, so yeah, well, the thing about margarine is that you buy it in stores being yellow to make it look like butter.
Yeah.
But in any case, the yellow is actually yellow coloring because margarine naturally produces gray. It is a plastic and your body cannot actually break it down. So when you take in margarine, it behaves like a plastic. Essentially, your body cannot break down that fat. It's called a trans fat. And that can accumulate into heart disease in the long term. But the myth between butter and margarine has existed for a long time. It's actually part of a feud between the animal farmers and the vegetable farmers back in the States. And looking at both industries, for example, the animal industry used to dominate a lot of the cash flow because of the animal produce, the electricity that they use from the fat and so forth. But the vegetable farmers obviously felt that they were losing the money, and so they employed scientists to come up with this concept of margarine, and they introduced margarine as a cheaper form of fat that people can use. And they marketed it as it being better. But ever since the introduction of margarine into the States, for example, in the early 1900s, the rate of heart disease has increased from 0 to where it is right now.
Wow.
All right? So every year heart disease is going up, and it correlates with the introduction of margarine.
Since we were touching about butter comes from milk, so let's touch on the next myth, which is low-fat milk. You know how everybody goes like, oh, we should always take low-fat stuff. So low-fat milk, is that better than full cream milk?
No, absolutely not.
How so?
It is definitely not better. Well, if you look at the amount of fat, for example, if you compare the fat content between full fat and low fat or skinny milk, essentially for every 100 grams, the difference in fat is actually not too much. But it is interesting how marketing can portray that having something that's skinny or having something that's low fat is actually better for health, because now the society is scared of fat.
Yeah.
We don't understand that so many parts of our body relies on fat to function. Our brain is made of cholesterol. Our cells have a cell wall that we need cholesterol as an integral part of the cell wall. A lot of our hormones, for example, are fat-soluble hormones. That means we need saturated fat for the hormones to work properly. We need that for chemical reactions to happen.
Right.
So fat is actually a good thing. It's not a bad thing. And if you're taking fat from a good source, that is actually a necessity for your body. All right. So something like skinny milk or low-fat milk, for example, is processed milk. The more processed the food is, the more unnatural the food becomes to your body, because your body is essentially organic. It's essentially ancient.
Right.
Yeah? It's only in the last 100 years that we've been introducing a lot of coloring, preservatives, additives, and a whole range of different chemicals into our body, and our body is highly stressed, and that's why the rate of cancers are increasing so drastically nowadays, because we're stressed.
Okay.
So when you look at something like low-fat milk, to give you an example, it is a processed milk. And the more processed it is, the less natural it is for the body. Essentially what happens is if you ingest, so you're taking a lot of skinny milk, your body, in order to absorb the molecule whole, what your body needs to do is it needs to find fat to kind of accompany that with the milk. Because your body recognizes what milk is, for example, as a natural source, and that comes together with fat.
Right.
And so your body has to either extract nutrients from different parts of your body to kind of form that full nutrient for it to absorb. And so what happens when you're taking a lot of skinny milk is that, for example, because of the lack of fat, you may not be able to absorb calcium effectively.
So we might as well just drink full cream milk then?
Yeah.
Okay.
If you were to drink milk, then you obviously opt for full fat milk. But there are other myths as well, which I would like to talk about, and that is whether you should actually drink milk at all.
You want to touch on that?
We'll probably leave that for next time. How's that?
Okay, we'll leave it next time. Since we're still touching on low-fat stuff, diet soda. Now there's soda of all types, and then they say diet soda is better. Is that really a better alternative, or is that false?
That is definitely false. I mean, again, this is part of marketing. It says that a diet soda has a lot less calories, and calories is the end all and the be all to weight loss. So people think, oh my gosh, if I have a drink which has 0 calories in it, for example, then I won't be adding to any fat in my body.
Mm-hmm.
But when you understand how your body functions, when you're taking a diet soda, for example, a lot of these sodas are quite sweet. They are sweetened by an artificial compound called aspartame, and aspartame is cancer-causing.
Yeah.
All right. So you take it, your tongue would taste sweetness. It would start to send a signal to your brain. Now you start to get a little bit hungry because there's sweetness, and your brain goes, I need to break down or digest the sugar that's coming through my body.
Mm-hmm.
It releases the enzymes. And as it goes into your stomach, all of a sudden your stomach realizes that, look, that's not sugar. It's not sugar at all. I don't know what this is. It tastes sweet, but it's not sugar.
Okay.
And so what happens now is that your enzymes are already secreted, and you have a drink which has 0 calories and has no sugar, and it tells your brain, you know what, I'm hungry. Now my enzymes are out. Can you please put in some real sugar, because I need to break it down. I need to break something down. And so you become hungry after diet drinks.
And
you become nippish. You want to chew something. You want to eat something.
That's going to cause the overeating, right? I mean, it's going to cause you to want to eat.
Exactly right. That can cause overeating as well. But with diet drinks as well, I mean, there is also a plausibility that it's suggested with diet drinks, because of the sweetness that your body tastes, it can also elicit an insulin spike, just like what normal sugar does.
Mm.
Okay, so even though it is no sugar, but because of the sweetness, your body believes that it's sugar, and it shoots up insulin. Insulin is a storage hormone. It takes the sugar essentially and kind of stores it either in fat or in the muscle.
Mm-hmm.
But now, when aspartame, for example, is introduced into the body, it makes it sweet, and your insulin still spikes. And with your insulin spikes, for example, you will also put on fat. You tend to gain fat with that.
So basically just remove the soda, from your diet altogether.
Soda water, if you're looking at just carbonated water, that's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
Okay. In fact, carbonated water can be, if it's naturally carbonated anyway, it can be actually very good for your system. But soda itself with sugar and artificial aspartame in there, I would definitely say take it out from your diet.
Great. I think there's a lot more we can talk about. We'll save that for another day. But
Absolutely.
We do have a question here from Yin Ling. She would like to ask, if you don't mind answering, Ben.
Sure.
She's asking, diets that only allow you to eat meat, do they work? So what kind of meats are good for the body?
So that's a very broad spectrum of how I can answer this. Firstly, diets that only rely on meat, do they work? My question is, how does your body relate or react to that? Because when we train clients, to give you an idea, our philosophy is obviously looking at the individuality of the client. Everyone is quite different. You're different because of your ethnicity, your blood type, your just the way your DNA is being structured. Mm-hmm. If you look at the Red Indians, for example, a lot of them would live, back in the day when they used to hunt buffalo, they would have 2 to 3 kilos of buffalo a day. Their source of vegetables will only come from berries and some shrubs, if anything. Mm. So very, very little vegetables and a lot of meat, and they were healthy that way. On the other end of the spectrum, we look at a lot of tribes, for example, tribes that are in the rainforest. Their source of protein may come from worms, from smaller bugs, for example, and a lot of their food will come from roots. It will come from leaves. It will come from plants. So a majority of their diet can be vegetables, and a small proportion of that is protein.
Okay.
Now, they were also very healthy. So in regards to whether a diet of meat will suit you specifically or suit a person specifically, you need to see where that person is from on a genetic level, on blood type level. We need to evaluate that. Okay. So there is no straightforward answer to that. But generally, if you're just taking a diet of meat with no vegetables, then no, it is not healthy. So you need to put in some sort of fibers for sure. and you need good quality meats that you put into your body as well. Yeah, you got to choose good quality meats, and you got to put in lots of fiber, because otherwise you will get constipated.
I think for her, she was asking for the working female, if she ate meats together with salad, would that be suitable for her?
How lean is she?
Sadly, I'm not very sure, Ben.
So do you see how you can shoot both ways? So for example, if you're not having carbohydrates, for example, like starchy carbohydrates, but you are very lean and your body needs it, you will not do well on a diet of meat and veg. You will need carbohydrates, you need your rice, you need your potatoes, you will need starchy carbs. But if your body is not tolerant to breaking down carbohydrates at any one point, then absolutely, you need to abstain of starchy carbs, and you need to increase your fiber, you need to increase your protein content.
I think that should be another topic for us next time, Ben, like where we talk about it. Is there a way that maybe people can find out if starchy carbs is good for them or not good for them? Can we actually do
There is a way. It's called bioprint. You can get me down and I can do it for them for a fee. Yes, there's absolutely a way to be able to identify that. But in general, Linora, the topic about diet is very individual. So if they ask very specific questions, yeah, I can definitely give them an answer. But if it's a general topic like, does this diet suit me? I don't know. I don't know until I've tested you. Okay. Because also at the same time with diets, I mean, the word diet itself is not conducive.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So to follow a diet in his own accord is really a diet. You are not being healthy when you follow a diet. You know, you want to make it a lifestyle. You want to make it something where it's continuous and you can have control over.
Awesome. Thanks, Ben, for debunking these myths. This is just the first podcast. There's a lot of topics we can talk about, but if you feel there is a fitness or nutrition myth or any topic that you want to discuss on, please comment below. Meantime, Ben, how can people find you? Facebook, Instagram?
Absolutely. Now, we're on Facebook as Australian Strength Performance, one word. Also, if you can look us up on our website, it's www.trainasp.com.au. We're based in Melbourne. We've brought some courses into Malaysia recently, into KL, into Penang recently. We're definitely looking to come back again and educate, I guess, the population on interesting facts that, again, is going to be very helpful for health and fitness.
Yes, we basically like to get tortured by Ben.
Correct.
Great stuff. Next podcast, we'll discuss on fitness myths like, do women get bulky when they lift weights? I hate that misconception. And if you have any myths you want answered, please comment below. You can learn more about Ben and Australian Strength Performance in the links provided. Till then, it's Linora and Ben from ASP. Have a great day.
See you later.